Hello everyone and welcome to this Groovy Gaming tutorial series. In this particular tutorial, we will learn about the functions. So let's begin. Functions are the reusable blocks of code designed to perform a specific task. Now what it means? It means that tomorrow if you're writing a script and you need to do calculations for the 10 times. And let's take example over here that you need to perform addition 10 times in your script. Now, the first approach is that you would be writing a additional logic every time when you need to perform a addition. But the problem here is that tomorrow, if there is any change in the logic, right? So you need to update every place where you have written that particular logic. So the approach which is best for this scenario is that to use the functions because the functions are the reusable block of code. So you will be writing it once and then we will be calling as many times as we want in our script. So tomorrow if there is any kind of a change in the logic, so we need to change it only at one place. Now there are two kind of functions in the programming. So one is the built-in functions and other ones are the custom functions. So built-in which are already provided by the programming language or scripting language, and the custom one which we write ourselves. So let's start with this one and right click on the test plan. Go to add, go to threads, go to thread group, and inside the thread group again right click, add sampler JSR223 sampler, and here. So since our first tutorial, what we were doing is that we were logging the information using log.info, and whatever we were providing inside this one, it got logged. But how this logging is actually working? Here, this log.info is basically a function. The logic behind logging this is basically written already. We are just calling this built-in function over here. So for example, if I say hello and run this one, so it will log the information, right? So if I go here, log viewer, so this information should be logged over here, right? So this is basically a built-in function. Similarly, the print ln is a built-in function. We are just using that function, and whatever we want to print in the console, we just providing that string. We are not writing a logic to print that in the console. Okay, so let's go with some more functions over here which are really useful, which are built in. So for example, you need to generate a test data which is dynamic in nature. So for that you might need to generate a random number. Okay, so for that I will create a variable random number is equals to, now this math dot random is basically is a random function coming from the math class. Okay, and now I will say that okay, the random number should be between 100. Okay, so it will, whatever the random value being generated, it will multiply by 100 and as a integer. Okay, now we can simply say print ln, and here we say random. Let me copy this one and paste it here. Now you see that we are not writing the logic to generate the random number over here. We are just calling the built-in function. Okay, so if I run this one and if I go to the console over here, so this, you see that 99 got printed over here. Now if I run this again, so it will generate another random number 95, right? So if I run this again, you will see that another random number will be generated. So in order to generate a random number, so for example tomorrow you need a word jmeter, and at the end of the jmeter there should be a unique number. For example, jmeter 1, jmeter 10, jmeter 5. Collectively it will make a unique data, right? So you can generate a random number and append that number with your string. It will make your data dynamic. Okay, now let's take another example over here. In some cases what you need to do is that you need to get the current date and time. So for example, you need a timestamps for the request. Okay, now the purpose of the timestamp is that you might need to debug. You might need for the assertions. You want to see that which transitions are getting failed at what point of your performance execution, right? So, how you can do this? Simply, I will say this, and I will create a variable current, current, and I say current date is equals to new date, new date, and then I need to provide the format in which I need a date. Okay, so the common format is that is year, like 2025. Okay, then month, like 0203, like then I need a day, and then I need hours, then I need minutes, then I need seconds. Okay, and if I go here and print this one, so see what happens over here. So you see that the current date and time got printed. So when we are executing our performance test scripts, so it takes some time, right? So it might be executing the request which got failed, and you want the timestamp exactly. So it will have a timestamp of that particular request which got failed. And right now we got this particular date and time. Now if I run this again, obviously the time has been changed, right? Since then, now another request, and see what happens. So you see that we got the exact current time, right? So whenever you're working in the performance test skills, you need to log the timestamp. So this is how you can log. And again, this is our the built-in functions. And when we talk about the built-in functions, we have the functions for the strings as well. Okay, so let me remove this part from the code. And for example, I say JMeter test. Okay, and what I need to do is that let me save it as name. Now when you're running with your scripts, you need to work with the strings. For example, what you need to do is that you need a string in the uppercase. Okay, or you might need a substring from this one. Okay, so you can do these things in the JMeter. For example, here what you need to do is that you need to do name dot to, then we have a function called upper case, this one, right? So if I run this one, so see what happens over here. So you see that the complete JMeter test got printed in the capital, right? However, we have caps and smalls here as well. Similarly, what you can do is that you can convert in, you find a specific string for the verification purposes. So you can say sub string, you need a substring, and substring should start from like from 0 and from like 3. Okay, so if I run this one, you will see that it will print JME. So basically the strings start from 0 index, so 0 1 2, so basically 0 1 2 3. So that's why these three got printed. So when you're working with the API test and you're receiving a particular response in the very long string, and you just need a specific substring to verify that the API is working right or not. So you can get a substring from that and verify your requirement. Okay. Now we have already covered the timestamps, right? We have, now let me show you one more example in terms of the built-in function. You need a random string. Okay, so what you can do is that, let me remove this part of code and say random. Again, this is my variable in which I'm storing a random value. So I will say UUID dot random UUID and 2 dot 2 and then I'm converting it into a string. Now let's print this one into the console and run this one. And we go here in the console. So I got a unique UUID. And again, this is a unique identifier. UUID is a unique identifier. So the purpose of using the unique identifier is that you might need to identify your API requests uniquely, so that tomorrow if you're debugging, so you can understand, okay, which API is actually failing at what particular point of the time. So you can use a UUID, you can use the timestamp. That will give you a lot of information when you are debugging or you are performing some assertions on your scripts. Now, besides using the built-in functions, what you can do is that you can write your own functions. Okay, so now let me show you how to write your own function. So how to work with writing the function, simply use the keyword called def. Then we need to perform, like, we need to provide a name of the function. So greet user is the name of my function, and what kind of a data this function will be using. So I will say this, it will use a string, and I need to provide a variable. So tomorrow whatever I provide to this function is basically a string, and this value will be stored using the name variable over here. Okay, and here I will say this function, what this will return. So I will say hello, and then I will say plus name. This will be returned by this particular function. Now we have created the function. Now what we need to do is that we need to call this function. So I will say def greet and greeting message is equals to greet user, and here we are actually calling this function. So greet tester. So we are passing a string value here, and now we say here, so let me scroll this down, say print ln, and print ln, let's go with this message. That's it. So run this one, and if I go here, you will see that hello tester got printed. Now whenever I want to use this one, how many times even I want to use this one, I can simply use this one. So I can copy this one because I have written the function. So I will say greeting message 1, and here I will say tester 1. Okay, and let me close this log viewer and printing this one here. So you see that this is how it is easy to work with the function. We have written the function. The function is returning hello plus the name which we will provide over here into the function, and it will return the value. So run this one, and here is, you see that hello tester 1 both got printed over here. So that's how you can actually work with the built-in functions, and you can work by creating your custom functions when you are dealing with the different scenarios in the JMeter. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you like our content, then do like, comment, share and subscribe our channel. Once again, thank you so much, and see you in the next tutorial.